Hello and welcome to episode 35 of the NF Show. I'm your host for this week, Evan Campbell, and with me is a very special and very awesome co-host, Neal Ronahan.
Why, thank you, Evan. My name is Neal, and I'm here to talk about Nintendo games. A lot of cool, exciting ones that are coming out in a few short weeks.
Yes, definitely, and the biggest one is Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS, so
By
get very
far.
excited. Yes, that's why this episode's titled A Smashing Good Time, because we're going to
Indeed it
talk
is.
so much about Super Smash Brothers. This is the NF Show. If you're unfamiliar, your first time, this is NF Magazine's official video podcast. Thank you for joining us. And like I said, so much to talk about, but along with Super Smash Brothers for 3DS, Neal and I will be talking about Hyrule Warriors, about Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call, and a special game. Even though Neal hasn't got any hands-on impressions with it, he does have the figure. So if you
You know,
are just
I have hands-on. Just this is as much hands-on as I've gotten.
Yes, and for people that are listening, it's Disney Infinity 2, so you have another reason to check out the video podcast for
Because you
this.
could you could be seeing Rocket Raccoon right now, which I
Yeah.
still find it ridiculous that we're in a world where there's a Rocket Raccoon figure in a video game before even Amiibo are out.
Yep, definitely. So it'd be cool to get your impressions of at least what the figures are like, and you can maybe sum them up to Amiibo so we can bring in more of the Nintendo angle. But before we get started talking about any games, just another reminder about the NF Magazine promotion. Over on NF Magazine's Kickstarter page or on nfmagazine.com, there's a promotion going on for us to get a cool double-sided Super Smash Bros. Poster. All we need to do is get 100 new subscribers. So this is a very doable goal. There is directions on those two websites with how to get the new subscribers, do the link, but if we get 100 new subscribers, every subscriber to NF Magazine will get a special double-sided Super Smash Bros. Poster. And Neal, I don't know about you, but I really like the Mario Kart 8 poster, so it'd be
Yeah,
really cool to get the new one.
yeah. I mean, that was I didn't see it until we got our copies of the magazine. Like I saw the image for it, but seeing it in person, that poster is hella cool.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully we can get another one of those. Remember, you can go to NF Magazine's Kickstarter page or nfmagazine.com to get all the details and also check out the subscription sales to get the last 3 issues of year 2 subscriptions. So be sure to check out that. But with that out of the way, let's get to the main event. Let's not mess around with any news tidbits because there's nothing as important as Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS, which just launched in Japan. And there was also a special demo that went out to Club Nintendo members. I've gotten to play that, but Neal actually has a Japanese 3DS and has
Yes.
been playing the final game. So
I
he's
uh, I bought a Japanese 3DS with the explicit purpose of getting Smash Brothers early. It was when we found out about all the release dates at E3. When I heard that the Japanese version was coming out almost a month ahead of the North American version, I think I was talking to a couple people at E3 and was just like, well, I guess I'm getting a Japanese 3DS. And I wound up finding a good deal in like July or August, so I had it kind of sitting around waiting for that day, and that day came, and I've put about more than 10 hours into the game so far. I've unlocked every character. I guess I'll be respectful for anyone that doesn't want to know what some of the really, really awesome, super secret, fantastically cool final unlockable characters are. I will respect that. Just know that they're awesome. Um, but yeah, I put a lot of time into the game, and I really, really love it, even more than I thought I would.
that's really awesome to hear. Before we get too far in depth, I'm just curious to give some people some background. What's your favorite Super Smash Bros. Game, not including the new 3DS version?
Um, I mean, well, at least I can tell you what my least favorite one is, and that's 64. I
Yeah.
had fun messing around with that, but it was just never more than that. Melee is probably my favorite when it comes down to it. Although there are a lot of things in Brawl that I do like. Like I love Final Smashes. I do like I like some of the craziness that was added to Brawl, but as far as the actual gameplay, I think Melee's still the tops. Um, and not that I'm not that well versed in the competitive Smash world. Like I'll watch Melee on Evo and stuff like that, and that's fun. But I play it to mess around, and it seems like the 3DS version, at least from my time with it as an educated non-competitive Smash player, it seems like it's a pretty good balance between Brawl and Melee.
That's really cool. So you're playing. This is the first handheld Super Smash Brothers, which I feel like is being left out a lot of the conversation. Everyone's just excited about the game, but what was the first thing that stood out to you when you started playing Super Smash Brothers for 3DS?
Like how smooth it runs, because it's at 60 frames per second except for like assist trophies are at 30 frames per second, which you can notice especially, and I think he's even in the demo, the Girahim assist trophy looks really, really janky, and that's because all the assist trophies run at 30 frames per second, so that way everything else is so smooth. And it just looks really, really nice, even on a regular old 3DS, which is the Japanese 3DS that I have. It's an OG one. Um, but that's definitely the thing that's blowing me away, is that I didn't think it would run that well, and it is taxing the heck out of the 3DS system, so much so that you can't access Miiverse, or basically when you close out of Smash Brothers, even the demo. So if you have the demo, you can try this for yourself. When you close out of it, the system has to entirely reboot.
Yeah, it must be using up all of the extra
Yeah.
memory that would usually be reserved for the home screen, is my guess. And this is kind of, I don't think this is people's biggest fear, but this is kind of getting into that territory of how is Nintendo going to utilize the new 3DS that was announced? And we've had readers be on both ends of the spectrum, Neil, where people are like,
Yeah.
oh, this is either it's going to divide the user base, and other people are like, oh, it's going to be fine. But if you have a new 3DS, you will be able to access Miiverse with Super Smash Bros. For 3DS.
Which, I mean, it's like the thing with that, at least, I mean, there's a whole big debate: is the new 3DS a slap in the face to 3DS owners and stuff like that? Which I personally don't think it is. It's been 3 years by the time. Well, actually, it will have been 4 years probably by the time it comes to America. But as far as Smash Brothers, the thing is that the game still runs really well. Yeah, it's taxing. It's taxing the old 3DS. But I mean, if the only functionality that you're losing is you can't post images to Miiverse, which you can't do for all games anyway. Like I don't think Monster Hunter lets you do it for some reason or another.
That's
Um,
true.
like I mean, and also as someone who I think that the implementation of Miiverse on 3DS I think is already kind of terrible because it takes so long to get in.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't
I
even
mean,
bring it up. We've
yeah,
gone over this so
it's
many
the kind
times.
of thing. I feel like knowing that Smash Brothers can't use Miiverse on 3DS makes the reason why we're getting the new 3DS even clearer. Is the 3DS as it is doing things it was never meant to do, like
Hmm.
access Miiverse. Like I don't think that was part of the plan when they designed the system back in 2010. Um, I think that was something that was tacked on, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of like with the when you looked at like the Wii, the Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3, how when those systems came out in 2005 and 2006, like Netflix wasn't a thing. You didn't have full retail games being downloaded, and those systems by the end of their lifespans were all getting taxed pretty heavily because they were doing all these things that they were never meant to do. And that's why it's nice on the newer systems where Netflix runs really well on everything, and you can download full games and it works, as opposed to being a little broken.
Yeah. So I've played some of the Super Smash Brothers demo for 3DS, and like you, I feel like one of my first impressions was it's a gorgeous looking game. It runs really well, and I think it only does 60 frames per second when you have 3D turned off, right? It.
No, I think it's 60 frames per second. Like, don't quote me 100% on that, but I'm almost positive that it's 60 frames per second even in 3D.
Okay, I haven't tried that yet, but the thing that was kind of hard for me, and I know that there's probably options in the full release because you can't access any of the options in the Club Nintendo Super Smash
Yeah.
Bros. 3DS demo. So I hated how they had and I'm someone that will. This is funny because I'm someone that'll defend Sakurai's decisions for Kid Icarus Uprising, which has a
You
very
and me
divisive
both. You and me
control
both.
divisive control scheme. But I hate how a and B are mapped to the weak and strong attacks, and X and Y are the jump buttons on the 3DS demo. But I'm guessing you can change those
Oh
options.
yeah, yeah. You
Okay,
can. It's a Sakurai game, so you can customize it to high hell. Um,
but so
I
that's
mean, and like you can turn off tap jump and stuff. I mean, I think I'm realizing how I am as a video game player is that like I'll be frustrated about something, but then I'll just adapt to it and not care. Like one good example is with Shovel Knight, how you'd have to hit the B button to continue, and I thought that was really silly. but then I just got used to it and I didn't care within like 15 minutes. And that's kind of how I am with Smash Brothers, which is part of the reason why when I first got Brawl, I ended up playing a lot of Wii Remote on its side, just because of like, I think it was something where like maybe I was like short a GameCube controller or something, so I wound up just using the Wii Remote on its side, and I just got used to it. Even though I try to go back to it now, and I'm like, what? How did I ever do this? And I wasn't terrible with it either. Um, but that's kind of how I am with this. Is that like when people complain about the button layout for Smash Brothers on 3DS, I'm like, yeah, you have a point, but I don't know. I just played a couple rounds and got used to it.
Ugh, I cannot get used to it. But I think that I knew that I figured the options that wouldn't be a problem. I don't know why those options are turned off for the 3DS demo, but that's fine. That has nothing against the funnel game.
Yeah.
But what I did find was after 30 to 45 minutes, it it cramped my hands. It definitely just trying to pull off the smash moves and the different moves in that game on, and I'm using a 3DS XL, so I'm not even using the smaller system. It was rough for me, and I know that there were a bunch of stories over the weekend about the
Shattering circle
3DS,
pads.
yeah, the circle pads, because you are doing. I mean, every Brothers game before this, except if you use the Wii remote like you did, which I'm in astonishment over. You had
I mean,
the
I'll let you know, like that lasted like maybe a month, and then I was like, no, I gotta go GameCube controller. Actually, for most of my Brawl playing time, I used the Classic Controller Pro once that came out. I love that controller.
yeah. Yeah, I'm curious what I'll use for the Wii U. But are you having any problems playing the 3DS? Have you been playing long stretches of time? Do you find yourself having to take a breaks? How does it feel, especially on that smaller 3DS?
I haven't really had any issues with it, and I think in some weird way I feel like it might be an issue for the XL, but it's not an issue for me with the original 3DS. My hands haven't cramped at all, and I have been playing like I probably I've been good about taking breaks like Nintendo usually recommends. Um, I mean I probably sat down and played like an hour straight a couple times. I mean, but I also find with Smash Bros. On the 3DS, just because there's all the customization options, that it would be the kind of thing where like I'd be playing a couple matches, maybe I'd like do a run through classic mode, and then I'd go and like, oh, I'm gonna go, buy some trophies, play the little trophy game, and then I found myself bouncing around modes a lot, so that probably staved off my hands getting cramped. I was fortunate enough over the weekend that I played a lot of local multiplayer
Oh,
on the
cool.
demo, because I got my Club Nintendo, my 4 codes, and I happened to my friend was having a housewarming party, and 3 other people that had 3DSs were coming, so I sent them. I was like, guys, download this before you come over. Um, we're gonna play some Smash Brothers, and the local multiplayer ran so well, and it really, I didn't feel like anything was lost by not having a TV. I think if anything, it was easier to do because we were sitting in a room of people, and it was just like, oh yeah, let's play some Smash Brothers. So we just broke out our 3DSs and played, didn't interrupt anything, and it was wonderful. Um, and that, like, I mean, that was probably the longest stretch I did one thing in Smash Brothers, because I was just playing. We probably played for half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And I think that was actually the only time that my hands started to cramp up a little bit. So maybe it's when you're heavily playing that it's a worry.
That's really cool. And yeah, the local I feel like the local wireless is the way to do it. Have you had any hands-on with the online mode yet? I know you'd be playing probably most likely people in Japan, so you're not going to have the best connection to that, but I was curious about the online experience.
I've messed around and played a couple like random matches in both for glory and for fun, and I didn't really have any issues with it. I didn't have that much fun with it, but that's also because there's a lot of modes that I don't speak Japanese, I don't read Japanese, so I'm just kind of clicking around, being like, okay, that looks like it's for fun mode. Gonna try this out. Um, and I mean, there's something for me that like I don't really like playing random people online,
Yeah.
so. And I think the lack of voice chat kind of kills that for me. I mean, it hurt it for me in Mario Kart 8 as well. Whenever I'd play that online, I'd be excited to talk to people before the matches, and then would abruptly cut out. And with Smash Brothers, I mean, I kind of understand, because it would be very hard to do voice chat with that game running so smoothly. Um, but I think the probably for me playing online, it'll have to be, hanging out with friends, maybe on a Google Hangout, playing Smash Brothers, because I need to talk to people. I need to talk smack when I play Smash Brothers, or else what's the point? I'm playing the computer then.
Yeah, I definitely understand the desire for voice chat, but so the lag though, I mean, I feel like everyone's worst nightmare is the brawl situation
Yeah,
where
I
you're
don't
just
think it's
stuck.
going to be that bad. I actually, there's a, I mean, not to self plug a little bit, but on Nintendo World Report, we had two guys, two people from our Japan team, Danny Bivens and James Charlton. I think they actually did a Google Hangout on Sunday afternoon talking about the online. Um, and they also, Danny wrote an article talking about it, and he had a few issues with it, but for the most part, it ran fine.
Yeah.
And I think he was very encouraged by what he played. Um, and I have a feeling that as far as I think for the Wii U version of Smash Brothers, it's going to be coming out like roughly the same day everywhere. And I feel like part of the reason why they had the 3DS version come out a couple weeks before the North American and the European versions is that they probably want to make sure that the online doesn't just break.
Yeah. Yeah, I have high hopes for the Wii U versions
Yeah,
online, and hearing that the 3DS, at least so far, is working pretty well. It seems like I've heard some issues about lag or whatever, but I haven't
yeah,
heard any of just the nightmare scenarios of Brawl where it was these never-ending lobbies where it just kept saying it loaded, or
yeah.
you finally get into a match and it's like you hit the attack button and 20 seconds later, like it's just this mangled mess of ridiculousness where I think I tried it like once a week for like 2 or 3 weeks and then I was done, totally done, never return to that. I don't even like
Yeah,
thinking
that's
about it.
that's pretty much what happened to me too. I mean,
Um,
and Smash Brothers is always a local experience for me as well. But
yeah,
I do hope I think I'll be playing online on the Wii U version. I probably won't really be playing online on the 3DS version that much. But that could change. Who knows? Um,
yeah.
I mean, I I have high hopes for it as well.
So the 3DS version also it has the special mode, and is that Smash Run that is
Yeah,
specific to the 3DS?
I
Have
think
you?
that's the one that's totally locked down. It's like that is 100% exclusive to the 3DS version. I was thinking about it today because they also have classic mode, which is just like, there's stages and you go through them much like you would in the classic mode in the other games. And I was kind of wondering if that's going to also get carried over to the Wii U version. And then I had the thought that maybe the Wii U version would have something more closer to adventure mode for Melee as opposed to classic mode.
Hmm.
Maybe something a little more fleshed out. That's maybe some kind of fusion of Smash Run and classic mode.
So what do you think of Smash Run though as the 3DS exclusive mode?
I'm very disappointed it's not online. That would be a game I probably would have fun playing online with. You can only play it locally. And for people who don't know what Smash Run is, basically there's like a randomly generated dungeon that you can explore. And your goal during that 5 minute period where you're in this is you can run into other players. All four players are on the same map, but it's large enough that you usually don't run into each other. But there is like you can see where the other players are, so you can hunt them down if you really wanted to. Um, and there are a lot of enemies, all from Nintendo games. There's Kremlings. I've seen Ghastlies. Oh god, I want to the little dudes with the hats from Mega Man that like
Oh yeah,
shoot. I
I
forget the name of them.
we know
There's
what you're talking about.
yeah, enemies from all over the place. And that's really fun because there's ones like and there's rhythm heaven enemies show up, which is part of the reason why everyone thought the chorusmen were going to be in the game. Um, and then you're defeating these enemies, and then you get like different power ups that will like make you jump higher, make you run faster, make you hit harder, make your special attacks hit harder. And you want to get as many of those as you can because then at the end of the 5 minutes, you go to like there's like a final battle, and this final battle could just be a regular timed free for all. It could be a stock match. It could be 300% smash, or it could be like there's only one item that shows up. Like that, I've played one where it's only mushrooms or only the warp stars from Kirby items showed up. And there's one that I mean, and also at this point, those were ones that I had seen in the North American version, so I can tell you exactly what they are. Um, but there was one where I had to like run through a level really fast that I didn't realize what I had to do at first because it's just like Japanese, and then I'm in this, and I'm like, why is the screen scrolling and everyone's showing? Okay, I guess I gotta follow them. But yeah, I mean, it's random in that you could be building up to have this super powerful character, and then you could have something where you need to run fast, and then you have a slow character, and you're kind of screwed. Despite the fact that if you would fight anybody in a battle, you would win. But yeah, I
That's
mean, it's kind of neat. I wish. I mean, I think the main thing with that, and what Sakurai's even said about it, is that it's a good way to grind to get the custom moves. Which for every single character, there are 3 different variations on every directional special move.
that's pretty crazy. That
And
sounds like classic Sakurai, just
yeah,
overstuffing a game full of content.
yeah, and that's something that I think I've already put a lot of time into the game, and I think I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm probably going to end up playing the North American version more. So maybe I'm not going to try to get all the customization options now and save all that grinding and Smash Run for the North American version, because that's the one that I'll probably be playing for a lot longer time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really cool, and that's weird that it's not online because I feel like when they talked about it, for some reason in my mind I was like, oh, that's a cool 3DS
Yeah,
specific online mode. The 3DS that I doubt there's going to be. Well, actually, I'm not even going to say that because I bet there is a competitive scene that builds up around the 3DS. But it seems like something that just for a lot of fun, where you're getting these special
yeah.
abilities, and then you go into this random match and you have no idea. Just a variety of that sounds really cool. Is there anything else that you're liking about having Smash Brothers on a handheld that you didn't even think you would like about it, or that has surprised you so far?
All right. Here's probably what's going to happen after we're done recording this podcast. I might not go to bed right away, but when I do go to bed, I'm probably going to sit in bed, take out my 3DS, and play a couple rounds of Smash Brothers, and then go to bed. That's one of the coolest things about the 3DS version to me, is that I can, I'm at work, and it's my lunch break. I got like 10 minutes to kill. I'm gonna play a couple matches of Smash Brothers and just pull it out of my pocket. Like, that's the coolest thing about it, is that it is just a damn Smash Brothers game that is in your hands and you can play it whenever. It's so cool.
Yeah, that especially I can just imagine if you have friends that play games at work, or you have friends that have 3DSs that you work with or that you meet up with, that
Yeah.
you could be at a restaurant, you could be at a bar, you could be during a lunch break and be able to get in a few games of Smash. That is definitely a killer feature, and I'm sure it's going to do so well on 3DS. I will just put in I got time with Super Smash Bros. On the demo, and Neil, I don't know if you know this, but I've basically said, I think over the past few months, that I'm just waiting for the Wii U version. I don't see any reason to buy both versions. I want it up on the big screen.
Reasonable way
Yeah.
to think. I don't think you're crazy.
Thank you. I've gotten some, not blowback, but pushback from people like, oh, you got to buy both. Go get the soundtrack. How are you going to, everyone is going to be playing Smash in October. Can you wait? And I played the 3DS version, and I think it is definitely, you're going to have a lot of fun, especially if you're a handheld gamer. I think it's great that you have the
Yeah, I mean,
opportunity.
that's I play a lot more handheld games than I do anything else.
Yeah.
So it fits right into my wheelhouse.
Oh, definitely. But for me, just playing the demo, I definitely think it's well done, but it's not my
Yeah.
cup of tea. I want it up on the big screen. I don't want to be looking down at the small screen. I want the GameCube controller in my hands, or I might try out the Wii U Pro controller to see how that handles first before busting out. I've got some Wavebirds actually right behind my left shoulder, somewhere up on that thing. I've got 2 Wavebird controllers. I guess I'd still have to get the adapter.
Yeah.
But I'd want that in my hands. I want to see it in HD because I think it's. You talk about how good it looks on the 3DS. I'm so excited to see.
I mean, for me, 3, it looked gorgeous. Like, the Wii U
Yeah,
version is wonderful. And as far as, I mean, you brought up the controls. When I played it, I played both the Wii U and the 3DS version back at E3, and I didn't really like the 3DS version as much. I thought the controls took a lot of getting used to, and I guess in the interim and between playing it now, I got used to the controls, and I don't have any issues with them now.
well, that's really good to hear, especially
Yeah,
for anyone that is having any concerns about that issue. That it is working out. And I think it will work out. I just want the stick for me doing,
yeah,
and it's probably just if I'm not rough with controllers actually at all, but I like
neither am
to
I.
to do those, I want to feel that like an actual stick. I feel like this is something where the circle pad, which I think is a brilliant input device and one of my favorite things actually about the 3DS, but I feel like for this type of game, it can't live up to an actual stick in your
Yeah.
hands,
I
which
mean,
is
I mean that's still the thing is that while I think the 3DS controls are adequate and they're fine, nothing can live up to the feel of a GameCube controller playing a Smash Brothers game.
oh yeah, definitely. But I will be waiting for the Wii U. I don't see myself getting the 3DS, but I will never say
Should be
never.
right
Who
until like
knows?
probably the end of November.
Yeah, that's fine. The Wii
There
U.
are
I
a lot of
need
other games coming out too.
Yeah, for 3DS, I'm most excited about Fantasy Life, and for the
Oh
Wii U,
God, man, I can't wait for Fantasy Life. I'm excited for Smash Bros. And everything, but I played Fantasy Life at a demo back in July, and I knew nothing about it going into it, and I didn't even get hands-on time. It was just a Nintendo rep walking me through a demo, and like everything I was hanging on her every word. I was like, yeah, tell me more. I can become a miner, and then become a carpenter, and then like become a paladin. I could go fight dragons. This sounds incredible. I'm
yeah.
so on board.
So that's like Fantasy Life's my most anticipated 3DS game, and that lets me make Smash my Wii U title with Captain Toad coming up closely behind, but Smash Brothers I'm so excited for.
Yeah.
But with that said, you've been playing another Wii U game that is coming up pretty soon, and we
Yeah,
had Don on.
September 26th in North
Yep.
America.
And we had Don on who just raved about Hyrule Warriors. So I wanted to get your quick impression since the game's coming up and people are getting more excited about it, especially like you said, I think we're just 2 weeks out from its
Yeah.
release. And that's
Um,
Hyrule
I
Warriors.
I think it's a lot of fun, and I think like I'm a big Zelda fan. I would say if you were to ask me like what is the Nintendo series that I hold most dear, it would be a hard fought battle, but I think Zelda would come out on top. Um, so I'm eating up all the fan service. Like there's just a lot of really goofy things. They have the new character Lana. She has a weapon called the Deku Spear, and she uses attacks where like the Deku Scrubs come out of the ground and shoot nuts at your enemies, or an entire Deku tree appears and helps you out in battle. Uh, they have all sorts of other ridiculous stuff where like you're Link and you have the ball and chain from Twilight Princess, and you hit people with that, and then well you're wearing the gauntlets and you have the ball and chain, and you end up like picking up a pillar from somewhere, like you do in Ocarina of Time, and then you bash it into the ground and spin it around and throw it. And it's absurd, it's ridiculous, it's bombastic, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a button mashy game. It definitely is. I mean, you've got two attack buttons, and you make combos by just pressing them in different orders. There's a dodge. I mean, it's a Dynasty Warriors game. If you've played one of those, I haven't really played a Dynasty Warriors game very seriously ever. Like I've screwed around with it, played co-op with people every now and then. But I kind of understand why people like them after playing Hyrule Warriors, because the thing about Dynasty Warriors games is that it's not supposed to be this like the combat is immensely challenging. The combat is very rewarding because you're just mowing people down. It's a lot more about like managing your troops on the field. So you
Yeah.
always there's a map in the upper right hand corner that's like blue's your forces, red's bad forces, and you need to kind of monitor that as you go around and make sure that like your troops don't get beat down and retreat, because then you could lose the fight, and you have to like go and claim keeps and repel enemies and make sure that like you're more managing the war field as opposed to just like, okay, it's an action game and I just need to make this crazy combo. That's
Yeah.
all just like you are going to be slaughtering hundreds of moblins constantly. It's just what happens in the game, but that's not where the challenge lies.
That's a great way to sum it up. And I feel like Nintendo, if they heard you, they'd be so excited that it's like you've captured exactly what they set out to do is
Yeah,
mashed up these two franchises, and now you're a little bit more interested in, or at least I guess I should say Koei Tecmo is really excited because you're a
yeah.
little more interested in Dynasty Warriors, their
I
franchise
think I
now.
think the only thing I would do as far as playing a Dynasty Warriors game after this, I might get. I think it was Samurai Warriors 3, the one on Wii that
Hmm.
had the what is it, Murasame Castle mode, because I was always curious about that. Um,
Yeah.
I might
And
go and pick that up. That's as far as I'll go, because really, still, what's driving me to play Hyrule Warriors is that I want to unlock more ridiculous weapons that I can use as Link and Impa and Sheik and Zelda, and find Ruto and play as Girahim, and like it's so dumb. I can't wait to play more of it.
well, especially if you are someone out there who's looking forward to Hyrule Warriors, you should be excited because
Yeah.
now not only has Don raved about the game, but Neil, you're here today raving about the title too.
Yep.
So have
And
a
it seems
lot to
like
look forward to.
it's going to be supported kind of long term as well. I mean, who knows how long term? Uh, Koei Tecmo, I think, has been like talking. Someone from Koei Tecmo, whether it's their official account or like a producer or something, has been talking about how they're going to do DLC and add in a new character. Or
That's
at least they're
cool.
heavily hinting at it. And even I got an update on my game, and they showed this off during the Treehouse stream last week, the challenge mode, which was something that wasn't in the game originally. I think it got added to Japan, and it's going to be out day one in North America. And it's just, you have like the story mode. There's the free mode where you can free play in early level. The adventure mode, which is the cool like uh, original Legend of Zelda themed map where there's like a lot of mini challenges and you go across the original Zelda map, which is super cool. And then challenge mode, which so far they only have one challenge, but basically it's like you start off in a level and you just try to like it'll keep on throwing stuff at you and you try to go as long as you can and keep completing the challenges, and it just gets progressively harder. And it was kind of fun when I was messing around with that, and while it's all the same basic gameplay, there's enough variety in what you can do in it that it's a really good time.
That's great to hear, and cool that they'll keep supporting it. Please let me know if they add an online mode. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna go any
that is a.
farther.
I like the local co-op a lot. The game takes a definite hit because it runs really well when you're playing single player, but when you play, I mean, it's displaying the same screen twice on the gamepad and then on the TV. So it doesn't like it just looks the graphics look really washed out. It still runs smoothly. Your game isn't affected while you're playing it. It just looks like garbage.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like depending on how people react to that, it could potentially prove Nintendo's decision to not have that functionality for Mario Kart 8 could prove that to be correct. If people lament that Hyrule Warriors has this two-player co-op mode, but it looks like crap, then probably Mario Kart 8. Nintendo made the right decision to just have the second screen just be the exact same screen as the main screen. Um,
Yeah.
because if they did do it where you could play like 1v1, one person on the gamepad, one person on the TV, that game's not going to look as pretty as it does.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I just want online and
Yeah,
Hyrule Warriors.
online
So
co-op on this would be really cool.
I'm not gonna hold my breath, but who knows if they're gonna continue supporting the game? That's very exciting, and I'll definitely be intrigued to see where they take it and whether they add new modes, new characters, and how they handle that. So
Yeah,
that's really cool. A game that does have DLC. The first one had a ton of it, and I'm sure the second one is gonna have just as much, if not.
I need to check to see if the store's up for the new one for Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call.
Yes, which we're just. I mean, does it release tomorrow? And if
Yes.
this, and for audio listeners, if you're getting this on iTunes, that would be yesterday.
Yeah,
We're
September 7th,
recording.
if you
Yeah,
wanted a number.
yeah, and you've been playing the North American version because we've gotten impressions about the Japanese version from Don, but not about the localized version.
Yeah, this one the other stuff that I've been talking about. That's mostly for Nintendo World Report. Although Don and I are both we're teaming up to write a lot about Smash Brothers for the upcoming issue. My review of Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call will be in the next issue. Actually, just sent that in today. And I'm loving it. I adored the first one, and this one is just it's like the first game, but they fixed like every issue I had with it.
That's really cool. What were those issues with the first game?
I thought there was this one's kind of I would consider this first one a minor quibble. Um, the character unlock progression in the first one was really confusing and convoluted and time consuming. because you kind of like needed to know, okay, this exact color of crystal shard. I need to collect like 10 of them to unlock this guy. And okay, I need to find the specific Chaos Shrine level that I can do this in, and I guess I'll just play it over and over again. Whereas in the new one, um, you basically like I forget exactly how many different colors of crystal shards there are, but let's say there's 5 of them. There are 6 unlockable characters tied to each of those shards. So as you unlock them, which happens a lot more frequently than when you unlock like however many 6 crystal shards, then you get to pick out of these 6 heroes there which one you want to get as a character. So naturally, whenever I get to that, I have all like the Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 6 characters unlocked, and now I don't need any more because I have all the ones I want.
So that's nice. So they have not user interface, but it just there's a clarity to this
Yeah.
game that wasn't quite there with the first one for you.
Yep. And then the Chaos Shrine mode, I think that's what it's called from the original. That was the mode that added a heck of a lot of longevity for that game, and it was like weirdly limited because it would be 2 songs that would be like randomly generated, which was cool, but then it'd only pull from like I think like 30 or 40 songs out of the the 100 in the game. Any DLC songs that you bought would not be a part of the Chaos Shrine mode. So kind of I would assume sort of in response to the reaction to that mode, which was very positive, just like, hey, could you make it better? They have this thing called Quest Medley mode, where you get these different quests that they just take place on a world map, where each level is a song that you'll have branching paths, so you'll basically be able to decide like, oh, do I want to like play a song from Final Fantasy 2 or Final Fantasy 10? You won't know what the song is or how hard it'll be until you go into it. But then you keep on making those decisions of which path to go in, and each path will have like maybe special items or a boss that you could fight that you could unlock more crystal shards, and it's just a really fun way to go through the songs. It actually reminded me a lot of Rock Band 2.
Well, that's a big comparison.
Yeah, in a sort of and I actually mentioned this in my review, that I feel like the first Theatrhythm was like Rock Band 1 and this one's like Rock Band 2. Whereas Rock Band 1 had, a rock solid concept, pardon the pun. It had a really good concept, and it had kind of a single player mode that was like fun, but like I kind of wish it was more in depth. And then the second game came out and had that more in depth career mode to it that like gave you a lot more randomly generated experiences than the first one did. And that's what Theatrhythm Curtain Call does.
That's really cool. And have you gotten a chance to play any of there's an online co-op, or not co-op,
It's
competitive mode, right?
immersive, and I haven't played it online. I did play it locally, and versus, or I mean against the computer. I
Okay.
definitely played versus, but it's a really neat mode where it's a rhythm game battle mode. So you're both playing the same song, but as you do well on it, you fill up a gauge that will then give a random special attack to the other person. That could be like, their note comes in at differing speeds, or they have to land criticals, and everything else counted as a bad one, which breaks your combo, or the notes will only appear right before they hit the highway. I guess that's the right term, or like when you have to press them. But I mean, it's just a really fun thing, and I'm looking forward to having some friends that get it online, because that is probably an online mode I would play.
Yeah, definitely. And you talked about playing it locally. So does that have download play where only one
No, it
person needs a
doesn't.
copy? Okay, both
Yeah,
people need a copy.
yeah,
Darn it. I was getting really excited there. Well, I know that Noah, who is gone for the month, will be very excited. He was a pretty big fan of Theatrhythm Final Fantasy, and I think he was looking at getting Curtain Call. He's a big rhythm game fan, so I'm sure he'll be excited to hear
yeah.
such the positive feedback, because I think the comparison you're making, the jump from Rock Band to Rock Band 2, will get a lot of people excited. So that's something fun they can look forward to this week on their
Yeah.
old 3DSs, not the new ones, the old standard.
None of that new fancy stuff. But yeah, I mean, Curtain Call was a game that I wouldn't say I was hesitant on, because I really loved the first one, but I was like, what can they really do to make it better? And then they did it. And like, I mean, the song list, it has every single song plus every single piece of DLC from the original, and then I think like 80 new songs on top of that. Then there's DLC for that game too. Like I don't think there's really a Final Fantasy stone left unturned at the end of that game. So just go and make like Theatrhythm Chrono Trigger next. I'd play that.
I think a lot of people would play that. It'll be. I'll be curious to see where they take the series next. But I guess we should just be thankful right now that they're doing such a good job with the
Yeah.
sequel with Kurt
I
and
mean,
Call.
I wouldn't mind seeing just like a general like Theatrhythm Square Enix, because I feel like, I mean, I think Chrono Trigger might have enough depth to have, but even still, like the wealth of songs, you're not going to have that in something like Chrono Trigger. So when you're
Dragon
going
Quest.
from yeah, I mean,
Dragon
but
Quest.
then but I mean, and maybe I guess you could say that for Final Fantasy, but I just feel like a lot of the Dragon Quest themes are very similar.
Hmm.
Like, whereas I feel like the Final Fantasy ones, like you can kind of tell what game they're from because they all have different feels. And I think that also has to do with how the Dragon Quest games are broken into trilogies as opposed to like being their own separate experiences.
Yeah, that's true. I still think Dragon Quest would be really
I
awesome,
would I
but
would play a lot of that game.
yeah, it'd be pretty darn good. But we don't have very much success here in the West just getting the
Yeah,
standalone Dragon Quest games recently. So,
it's so sad, so sad.
well, let's end on a happier note. Let's get a few quick impressions of Disney Infinity 2.
Um, as you can see, there's figures. I opened some of them. This is Spider-Man. This is Iron Man. I have Rocket Raccoon right here. There's a couple guys behind me, if you can see them. I've opened them. I look forward to playing with them a little more soon. Um, I mean, I'm in general. I guess as far as the whole toys to life genre, I've been following it closely, whether I like it or not, since the beginning. Because when I first played Skylanders, I thought it was incredible. And I still think those games are very strong. Disney Infinity 1 left a lot to be desired, in my opinion, because it was more of just like a toy box, which is great for kids. There was also a mode literally called Toy Box, which is very representative of what that game was. But it was just kind of a thing that you go around and you screw around in. And it seems like with Disney Infinity 2, they're making it more of a game, which I'm kind of excited for, because then it's like, I really like Marvel Comics, so I can play the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Guardians of the Galaxy mode or playset, and then basically have a Guardians of the Galaxy video game in an established, solid, basic mechanics, and then be able to play as Star Lord and Groot and stuff like that.
That's
And
really cool. And
and they're doing other stuff where like they're adding in like you can have there's like automated creators when you're in the toy box mode that can kind of like you can be like, oh, I want to build something like this, and they'll just go off and do it, as opposed to you having to like minutely like tweak everything, which was something where when Disney Infinity was kind of something that was marketed for kids, and yeah, they're like I just feel like there was a certain age range where maybe people, like for example, I have a niece who she was 5 when she was first exposed to Disney Infinity, and she liked messing with it, but she didn't really understand how to do all the toy box stuff. So having those kind of hooks where it does it automatically for you seems like a good way to kind of jumpstart people toying around with it.
and how do the figure? I mean, do they feel pretty much similar to the first Disney Infinity
Yeah, yeah.
characters, or does it feel like the build quality's improved? Are you enjoying them? I mean, that I
I,
feel it.
I think they're about the same as far as the quality with the other ones. I actually did with the original ones, like I think my Barbosa, his hat fell off, but like he doesn't. I mean, it's just he's got like this weird bald spot, so that's weird. Um, and I think it's more like sometimes there's figures that are in precarious positions, and as far as with Nintendo's Amiibo, like I think they have the Link that has like the pole up his back. That kind of worries me a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, I'm not big on Amiibo, but I think the Samus character model, the toy looks fantastic, and I've hovered over the pre-order button on Amazon several times at this point, but I really want someone to like be able to physically hold them, touch them, talk about the build quality and everything
Yeah, like I
before
mean,
I.
I think like I mean, if you look at Rocket right here, like his guns are a little flimsy, but it's nothing too bad. And I mean, if you're looking for them to display, then yeah, you want to make sure nothing bad happens to them. But I've also heard stories with like Skylanders where like kid will be playing with it and the head will fall off, but guess what? You can still put the figure on the
Oh
the
gosh.
portal and it'll still work in game.
Oh man, headless Skylanders. That's terrifying. Maybe that's why Nintendo passed on the idea so long ago. They just that was terrifying to them. Well, that's cool. We'll have to get you back on at some point to talk about
Yeah.
Disney Infinity
Yeah, I might
2.
actually. I recently got an Elgato capture unit, so I might be streaming some Disney Infinity this week. I need to. I literally just got it, so I was recording some Hyrule Warriors for a video review for Nintendo World Report, um, and it seems to be working. So that's encouraging. I'll probably be doing a lot more streaming and stuff for my Wii U and possibly even a GameCube or something.
That's really cool. So yeah, be sure to follow Neal over on Nintendo World Direct to get that. And be sure also to give us your impressions of the games you've been playing, or if you've gotten the Super Smash Bros. For 3DS demo, and that will be available to everyone, I believe, in North America and Europe this Friday. Be
Yep.
sure to send us in your impressions. You can email us at show@nfmagazine.com, or you can leave a comment right here if you're watching us on YouTube. I'd love to hear what you think about Smash finally coming to handheld and what you think about the new version. Even though there's only 5 characters, you do get to play as Mega Man and Villager, which is really cool.
Killager is the proper name for Villager, I think.
Villager, Mega Man is definitely, I'm sure there's a lot of nuance and stuff, but I was kind
I
of
don't like
bummed
Mega
out
Man.
with
I don't like Mega Man at all.
he looks great, but yeah, playing him, but Villager's got some really awesome
Yeah.
stuff. The tree cut down, but then also, and I'm blanking on the name of
The Gyroid.
the gyroid that
His
you
name
can.
is Lloyd, I found out.
That's,
Someone corrected me because I'm just like, oh, it's a gyroid, but someone's like, oh, it's a specific gyroid. I'm like, okay.
don't mess with the Animal Crossing lore experts,
Yeah,
Neil. You
I
should
mean,
know
really,
that.
the only Animal Crossing game I ever really got into was New Leaf, and I got into New Leaf pretty hard. And now after my love affair with the Villager on the 3DS version of Smash Brothers, it'll have that nice thing where I will become way more interested in that franchise because of how much I love that character in Smash Brothers.
Villager's really awesome. It's a really great
Yeah.
addition. Well, with that, let's get in to your feedback from the last episode. We're going to start with emails from Andy Lapp, who wrote in, when I was in the looks for an RPG game a couple of weeks ago, I stumbled upon Fantasy Life. While I was watching the trailer, it looked really nice with all the graphics and the gameplay. It's really cool that the game is not linear and that you can play any way you want. The game is sort of like a mix of Animal Crossing, an RPG, The Legend of Zelda, and The Sims. To me, it looks like a game I will play for a very long time, and with Don's impressions and the discussion about it, I am putting it on my wish list and I may pre-order it. For Super Smash Bros., I plan on buying the 3DS version of it. I am not expecting to buy the Wii U version like Don, but if I really want the soundtrack, which I'm kind of going back and forth on wanting it, I may eventually buy the Wii U version as well. It would be nice to have Nintendo soundtracks available on iTunes. I've been continuing to play Mario & Luigi Dream Team. I'm almost done finally. I also recently bought Link to the Past on Wii U, and I'm looking forward to playing that as well. I'm in a new world on Donkey Kong Country Returns, and I played a little bit of Mario Kart 8 with the new Yoshi and Shy Guy characters.
That reminds me that I haven't done anything with that downloadable content for Mario Kart 8 yet.
Oh yeah, because well, they had to give you something since
Yeah. I mean,
sadly, or I guess it comes out in November, so it's just
yeah,
2 months left until you get to play as Link, right?
yeah, and then there will be 8 new courses. Like I will definitely get that DLC when it comes out because the price is amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, I don't need to pre-order you yet. Like it'll be there when I want it. I don't feel like the need to give Nintendo my $12 2 months before there's anything I want to get.
Yeah, I'll be curious if they planning on keeping that special promotion up once the first DLC pack comes out?
I should probably look into that
Yeah,
because
I
then I
should
might
too.
force my hand in pre-ordering it then.
Yeah, I definitely should check that out too. But I'm like you, the new courses and everything, but it's just like, man, I'm paying for something that won't. And people pre-order stuff all the time. Although a lot of pre-orders these days, you don't put any money down until the game ships. But it's
Yeah.
like that second DLC doesn't come out until May. That is
Yeah.
what 8 months away. That is insane.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. We're talking about Villager. I'm weirdly enough, I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan, and if people want to go back, you could probably find Neil and I did a spoiler cast.
Yes. 2011.
Yes, of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Swords. You can look that up. That's an old Heartcast podcast. You can hear us kind of geek out about Zelda in general as well as Skyward Sword. And as much as I like Link, I'm more excited about Villager and Isabelle coming
Yeah,
this
I
year.
mean they just seem like they fit
Mario
more
Kart.
into the world.
Yeah, I love Isabelle. She's awesome. I wish she was a fighter as well. I know
She's an
everyone.
assist trophy, so that's I mean she's somewhat there.
Yeah, that's the first step I feel like to
Yeah,
getting your
that's
first
that's how
fighting.
Little Mac started.
Exactly. How upset is Waluigi that he's still an
I
assist
wish
trophy?
Waluigi was in the game. I mean, well, he is as an assist trophy. Actually, I don't think I've seen Waluigi pop up as an assist trophy yet. I mean, he's definitely in there. Um, or maybe he just got taken out because he's Waluigi.
Well, thank you, Andy Lapp, for the great email. We're going to move on to comments next, starting with Old School's 1990s, who writes in, thanks for another great show, guys. It is great to have Don on the show, as I really enjoy his input. I have pre-ordered Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've never played the first one, so I feel this is a great chance to do so. I will also buy Fantasy Life because I think it looks like a lot of fun. I have to admit, though, I am most looking forward to Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call. I was a huge fan of the original and have been playing the demo for the sequel since it was released in North America. I think this series is a great example of a game that can be played in small chunks of time over a long period. I put 190 hours in on the first one,
Wow.
and that was mainly just playing it on my breaks at work over the course of 9 months. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy music, and I think anyone else who is and has not tried Theatrhythm should really check it out.
See, I'll build off of that and say, even if you're not really that into Final Fantasy music and you just like rhythm games, I think that Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy is just a supreme rhythm game. There's actually one of the staffers over at Nintendo World Report, Zach Miller. He's not into Final Fantasy games at all. He played the demo for Theater Rhythm, really enjoyed it, bought the game, and I think he put probably about 190 hours into it too.
That's
And he's not a big Final Fantasy guy. He just thought the gameplay was great, and it's they do a good job of kind of bringing enough hints about the RPG mechanics into the rhythm gameplay because you're leveling up characters, getting abilities, and stuff like that.
And the sequel also has, we didn't touch upon, you can actually use button inputs instead of just a
Yes,
stylus for the sequel,
which
right?
we were talking about 3DS hand cramping. That's part of the reason why. I mean, I think I still put like 30 hours into Theater Rhythm. I probably could have put way more into it, but stylus inputs just kind of over time wear on me.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got past that in Kid Icarus Uprising because I put like 50 hours into that game. Um, but with Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call, I can just do button inputs, which I vastly prefer.
Sweet. Yeah, that definitely appeals to me. I played Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy and I enjoyed it, but the button inputs sound fantastic. So that's
Yeah.
something else that Old School's 1990s can look forward to. Thank you for that comment. Next, we have the seventh experiment, and it looks like we have some more Fantasy Life love because this is warming my heart. 3 comments in a
I
row
can't wait.
talking about
Can't
Fantasy
wait.
Life. You guys are
It's
really.
out in Europe like next week.
Yeah, I know. I got confused. I thought that it was coming out in North America at the end of this month, and Don corrected me and just
Yeah.
shattered my dreams. So,
It is an inexplicable month gap, which I
yeah,
guess we've been on the receiving end. So is Europe, but
yeah,
it's just one of those ones where I'm just very like what? But hey, we're getting Captain Toad this year. Europe's not, so cool.
that's true. There's winners and losers. The seventh experiment says, I'm glad you guys spent some time talking about Fantasy Life because I'm so excited for that game too. It was interesting to hear some impressions about the game. I'm a little disappointed to hear that the story is short, but it seems that despite that, Don still really liked it, which I'm happy to hear. On another note, I for one am very bitter about the new 3DS, and I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one who isn't excited. I'm going to be holding off on buying it. Matter of fact, sometimes if I wonder if I should buy it at all. I feel like I should just wait for a completely new handheld to come out. I'm wondering if you've been taking advantage of the smashing sales going up on Nintendo's eShop. I just purchased Kid Icarus Uprising and I'm excited to explore the world inside the game. I never played a Kid Icarus game, so this should be interesting. I was a little hesitant to buy it at first because I've heard a lot of people complain about the controls. However, I also ran into one poll where people were asked about the controls, and a very large majority of people said the reactions people had toward the poor controls were way blown out of proportion. I was relieved to hear that and decided I'd give it a try. I'm happy to hear you guys discuss Kid Icarus a little bit during this episode. I'm happy to hear that this, Evan, is one of your favorite 3DS games of all time. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite as well. And if you want to hear a lot of Kid Icarus love, about a month ago on the Nintendo World Report Connectivity podcast, I talked about it with another staffer, and we played some online matches for it. Ran fine, and Kid Icarus Uprising is still a fantastic game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like there, the seventh experiment. I found that the best way for me to play was to kind of sit on your couch and put your knees up a little and maybe get a pillow and then hold the 3DS. Oh, moving my hands, messed up my microphone, and move the 3DS there and kind of use that as a support for your left hand. I've also heard if you're using a 2DS that it is perfect for Kid Icarus Uprising because it's a lighter system.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have any hinges or anything. I'm guessing you're playing on the 3DS, but I would definitely get comfortable. I think there probably will be hand cramping possibly, but you can
it is undoubtedly going to happen when you play Kid Icarus Uprising.
I would also recommend to go into the options or look up kind of recommended options and then just kind of play around. One thing to think about is a lot of people, I think, play this game like a first-person shooter where they're just holding the stylus on the screen the entire time to look around. And I think my best advice to you is don't do that. Think of the 3DS as flick around so you can spin
like
around. Really, yeah, like a globe.
They say it in the game actually.
And I think
a trackball.
I think that is very key. Yes, like a trackball, like a globe, spinning around and stuff, because you'll have a lot of weaponry that'll kind of home in on things, so you don't really need to worry about the preciseness, just worry about the speed and getting to enemies, and I think that you'll be able to pick it up. But there definitely is a learning curve to the controls, but I think once you get on top of it, you're going to find one of the best 3DS games out there. Not only is it beautiful, but the story is amazing, the gameplay is fun, and there's just fantastic music throughout it. And yes, the online mode is really great and works well.
Really fun. We should I mean, I guess with Smash Brothers coming out, there might not that might be taking over online dominance. You should do a Nintendo Force Kid Icarus night or something like that, because that game is very, very fun, especially the 3-on-3 mode.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And I guess to get back to your other question, seventh experiment, I have not taken any advantage of any of the smashing sales. I haven't seen anything that I don't have already.
Yeah, that's the thing with like a lot. Like that's why I think I like the Sony sales a lot, because I don't have a lot of those games. But with Nintendo games, like new Mario game, like probably gonna buy it when it comes out. Fire Emblem, Luigi's Mansion, Kid Icarus, like I'm gonna get that when it comes out. I've been tempted to double dip, like basically like get Super Mario 3D Land and then sell my cartridge. I actually did that with Ocarina of Time 3D when they had a sale around E3, and I essentially just broke even because I sold it to someone for the same price as it was on sale in the eShop.
Yeah, nice. But definitely anyone out there, let us know what you're picking up. It's really cool to hear Seventh Experiment is picking up Kid Icarus Uprising. Our next comment.
They're good deals too. Not like amazing, but like $10 off of games and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely a good time to pick up. Whether you've played it or not, if you just want a digital copy, be sure to check those out over the next couple of weeks. Our next comment comes from Nintendo Dude GCN, who writes in, interesting thoughts on the new 3DS release timeline. I think Don might be spot on with a March release date for the West.
I think Don and I actually talked about that right when it happened, being like, yeah, that's when it's going to happen.
I recall the 3DS and DSi having a March release date in the United States at least. In the realm of new 3DS games, exclusive games to the new 3DS, I am totally in for Majora's Mask 3D, and I like Evan's idea of Twilight Princess 3D. Also, count me in for an Excite collection as well. Loved all three of those racing games on the Wii. Also think a new Metroid would be spectacular, but part of me is really hoping for a Wii U Prime-style Metroid. Hey, nothing says we can't have both a new 2D and first-person Metroid, right? Seem to recall Miyamoto hinting at those as well.
Now, don't get greedy. I would take any Metroid right now. I'd even take Metroid Other M2. I just want Samus in video games again that aren't Smash Brothers.
We are going to be on a 5-year drought of Metroid games starting next year, which is really sad. A half decade.
Uh,
So
well, we're
I,
on we're on 10 years of F Zero. Well, I guess Star Fox 64 3D kind of counts,
yeah,
but we're
that
we're close to 10 years on new Star Fox. Ugh.
Yeah, it's. I really thought we would see a Star Fox, either a Star Fox or F-Zero eShop game. I thought one of those would be
Yeah,
a small digital game at this point, but it's really interesting to me that, especially on the Wii U eShop, Nintendo's presence has been. I mean,
Wishbone World.
it's there, but it is so minimal that it
Yeah.
kind of surprises me, especially after WiiWare, where we got some great art style games, we got some Pokemon exclusive
What
games
has
on there.
Skip been doing? Like
I
Skip had this winning streak, but they'd have a new art style game like every other month, and it was incredible. And then they just like I don't know, they made Snowpack Park and stopped.
I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about them working on Nintendo's health initiative.
Yeah. Well, and I did forget they did have a Chibi Robo photo finder back.
Okay,
It came out last January in North America.
okay,
I never played that.
yeah, but I miss the art style games. But yeah, I thought you'd be excited. Don and I came up with an idea for the new 3DS, the Excite collection, Excite Truck,
I
Excite
I will
Bots,
I will be there
and
with bells on. I mean, there are a few games on Wii I like more than Excitebots. It's like the most fun I probably had with a game on the Wii. It's
yeah.
so good.
So that let's get those. We want all of these games. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Super
Nintendo,
sandwiches, man. I need super sandwiches all the time.
get on these. All right, our last comment comes from Benjamin, who writes in to say, "My first question is, how did you, Evan, enjoy the Super Smash Brothers demo? I follow you on Twitter, and from what I remember, it was better than you expected. Correct me if I'm wrong." And this is something I answered earlier on the show with all of Neal's great impressions. But yes, I definitely was impressed by the visuals and everything. My hands did cramp up probably after about 30 to 45 minutes. I think is definitely going to be a great game for the 3DS. But for me personally, it didn't sway me at all. I'm still planning on forgoing the 3DS version and just getting the Wii U version. Onward with Benjamin's comment, who says, "My second question is in relationship to the release of Nintendo games throughout different regions." This is perfect. We were just talking about this, Neal. "I often find it's a little upsetting that games are released in one region before another. The reason is because of the internet and how spoilers are everywhere and almost unavoidable. We can use Smash Brothers as an example of this. I know that it is difficult to plan a worldwide release, but this has been done recently by the Pokemon Company with Pokemon X and Y. This really leveled the playing field and made me enjoy the game much more because I was able to experience it without a crazy amount of spoilers. What is your take on this? Do you care if there's such a lapse in release time, or would you also like to see more worldwide simultaneous releases?"
Here's the problem with the worldwide launches. I don't know. Well, I mean, we have a very clear reason. There was that Smash Brothers leak a couple weeks ago. Um, that I believe it came out of America, from what I've heard. Um, and I guess as opposed to Japan, it seems like North America and Europe are a lot more prone to leaking stuff. And that's why I think that worldwide launches for games such as Smash Brothers and Pokemon, even though it did happen for X and Y, I don't think we're going to see that happen again. With X and Y, there was stuff where, like, a store in Canada sold it early, and then that store got heavily fined, and like I think that store shut down eventually. But once again, it's unfortunately we Westerners are not good at keeping secrets,
Is
and people leak a lot of stuff, and like you do have the stuff in Japan where like copies get sold early, but I guess that's not as big of a deal to Nintendo as stuff like X and Y being sold early at stores when it was a worldwide launch.
are Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, is that not a worldwide simultaneous release?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, I thought those were releasing at the same time too.
I think they might be right around the same time, but I don't think it's like the same exact day. But could be mistaken. I'm looking for an answer.
Okay, well, why you do that? I definitely agree. I think that there should be more worldwide simultaneous releases. I think Nintendo, one of its big struggles is, yes, on one hand, you want to cater to each specific region because each region is different, has different sensibilities, but I think Nintendo needs to act in a way where everyone's getting the games at the same time. I think it's frustrating, for instance, that Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney, which came out, what, 2 years ago maybe in
2000,
Japan,
end of 2012.
and came out at the beginning of this year, and now finally in North America we're getting it. And
Yeah,
I get it because Professor Layton came out when Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney came out in Europe and North America. So there's all these problems
yeah,
there. And I will give the benefit of the doubt to massive role-playing games where you have so much text to translate and everything. But Hyrule Warriors, a game like that, or
took a
anything.
month, more than a month in both regions. And actually, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is a worldwide launch everywhere except for Europe.
Oh
Europe
wow!
gets it a week later. Oddly
Oh,
enough, Australia is getting it on November 21st.
that's still
Europe
though.
is, yeah,
It's still. I mean, a week. Like
that is
it's
essentially that
frustrating.
is essentially a worldwide launch. So I stand corrected a little bit, but I also would say that a release of Pokemon remakes is a little bit different than the release of like the next entry in the series proper.
Yeah, but the Pokemon Company, I feel like, is doing well with that. Nintendo's done it a couple of times. I feel like I can't remember the last game they did it with, but and Iwata's talked about this. But yes, I think there should be more worldwide releases,
Yeah,
unless it's like a massive RPG and there's a problem. I get that there can be leaks and all of these other problems, but that's water under the bridge, and I think that affects what percent of people. I mean, these are we're the most dedicated people
yeah,
out there that follow everything. Your average consumer is not going on the internet or whatever, but yes, this hopefully it will happen, especially with digital becoming a bigger source of how people are purchasing and playing games.
yeah.
So let's keep our
And,
fingers.
and just remember, in about a week and a half, the first retail Wii U game from Nintendo since the end of May is coming out. So
That's
just
that's we're supposed to end on happy notes.
sorry, sorry. Well, to
No,
be
it is.
fair, both of
Yeah,
those
it's
games are pretty cool.
yeah. There you go. That is something to be excited about. Well, thank you everyone for all of your awesome
And
feedback. It's always a pleasure to go through that. Thank you, Neal, for helping me go through that.
thank you for having me on.
Oh, definitely. Just remember, you can email us at show@nfmagazine.com, or you can leave a YouTube comment. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about this episode. But don't forget, you can also subscribe to us, not only on iTunes, but also on YouTube. And there's also a NF Show playlist on the NF Magazine YouTube channel, so you can listen to us talk about Nintendo, 3DS, Wii, Wii U, everything Nintendo related for probably more than 35 hours now. If you just want to, go on a binge this weekend as you play the Super Smash Bros. 3DS demo. Also, if you do listen to us via iTunes, please leave a review. Give us your honest feedback about how we can improve the show, what you think about the show. We'd very much appreciate that. And then finally, if you want to hear more about what we think about Nintendo games or just life in general, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Evan Campbell. Neal is at nron10.
Yep.
And then finally, most importantly, NF Magazine official Twitter account is at Nintendo Force. And you can look forward to what else are you writing? You can look forward to Neal's Theatrhythm Final Fantasy curtain call in the next issue of NF Magazine.
And a bunch of Smash Brothers stuff. And you can read. I'm basically just writing about Smash Brothers for the foreseeable future. We have a recurring feature on NWR called the NWR Smash Diary, where it's just us talking about Smash Brothers. And that's kind of what Don and I are doing in the next issue of NF Magazine. And also what we're doing on Nintendo World Report.
That's really cool. And yes,
Smash.
I meant to bring it up earlier. Neal is the director of Nintendo World Report. Sorry, was getting caught. And also an IGN freelancer. And finally, and most importantly for here at the NF Show, a staffer at NF Magazine.
Indeed.
So once again, thank you so much for joining me, Neal.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. We'll have to have you back on soon. And thank you all out there for...
Disney Infinity, and whatever else may come. Fantasy life is around the corner.
And what other surprises? Nintendo, I bet. I talked about the eShop stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we have another Dr. Luigi moment this holiday season where they're
Or
like,
NES Remix. I mean, there is an NES Remix game coming out, but something along those lines.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a few tricks up their sleeves. But thank you. That is it for episode 35 of the NF Show. A smashing good time. Be sure to catch us next week, same time, same place. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.